Hey, well, good morning and welcome to another daily devotional. We've got today and tomorrow in Job, and then we are all finished up with the book of Job. But today we are talking about Job 41, probably one of the coolest chapters in all of Job, that God begins to bring up this creature known as Leviathan. And in youth ministry, we do a lot of Q&As, and one of the things, which is question and answer, where students can ask whatever kind of question on a piece of paper anonymously, and we answer. And I've done this on my whole career as a youth pastor, and one of the common ones that comes up was, did dinosaurs exist? And the most important one, did dragons exist? So today I'm going to give you a case for whether dragons existed or not, and what that exactly has to do with you. So in the book of Job, it is really, really hard to say that Leviathan was probably not a dragon. So if you read through, God begins to describe this creature known as Leviathan. He's going on and he's talking about all of these things, that he was some sort of creature that lived in the sea. And he goes on and on and on. And then he says this: no one is fierce enough to rouse it. Who then is able to stand against me? And we're going to come back to this. Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me. So we're going to come back to this, but God is saying, here's Leviathan, this amazing creature. You guys can't even fight Leviathan. How are you supposed to fight me? But it goes on, and from verses 12 to the end of the chapter, it goes on explaining what Leviathan looks like. He's got scales, he's got impenetrable armor, he's ginormous. And then in verse 19, it says this: flames stream from its mouth, sparks of fire shoot out, smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze and flames dart from its mouth. Sounds a little bit like a ginormous crocodile that can spit fire. Sounds kind of dragony to me. So if you begin to research dragons whatsoever, you'll find out that pretty much every culture has some sort of mythology about dragons from the Middle East, from this kind of area of the world. And some of our earliest records of dragon mythology come from Mesopotamia. Mesopotamian history is some of our oldest history. Mesopotamia describes the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates, which majority of the Old Testament happens in that area, right? So Mesopotamia is where a lot of this happens from. And a lot of people say, well, it was this, it was that. Why do we have so many so much mythology about dragons? And one of the biggest theories as to why we have mythology about dragons is that they actually existed. So one of the biggest things is maybe we have so many different myths about dragons because they actually existed. And so if you look at creation in the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, the Hebrew word for the great creatures of the sea, when God is creating everything, he says, there's this phrase, God created the great creatures of the sea. The word for this is tanninim, Tanninim. Okay, tanninim. The word for Leviathan is tannim. Okay, so literally just take off the last two letters of the Hebrew word for the great creatures of the sea, and that is Leviathan. And so as you read throughout the book of the Bible, this entire book we call the Bible, the Old Testament, Leviathan is actually mentioned in multiple books. He's mentioned in Isaiah, he's mentioned in Jeremiah, he's mentioned multiple times in the book of Psalms, okay? So when it's talking about this, there's this huge, ginormous sea creature that would come up and would torment people, would do different things, would attack sailors and all these things, and nobody could subdue Leviathan. Nobody could subdue him. Okay, throughout the entire Bible, it talks about how nobody could subdue him. So the mythology is really not that whether dragons existed or not. The way that kind of the falsehood steps into it is when we have this concept of a dragon slayer, that some people were able to kill a dragon. And in the book of Psalms and in the book of Isaiah, they both go on to describe the way that God struck down Leviathan, which is why in Job 41, God makes this huge case. So if you remember, if you're following along with us, Job's the oldest book written in the Bible. So at this point, Leviathan was still alive. And so he's saying Leviathan is this creature that no one is able to kill, no one is able to handle. Okay? And God is saying, and I'm the one that made him, he is subdued to me. So what you're trying to say is you can't even fight Leviathan, one of my creatures. How in the world do you expect to fight me? So really the whole concept of Job 41 is all around about the way we've come to is what he says. No one is fierce enough to rouse it. This is talking about Leviathan. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me. It doesn't matter how proud you are. If you went up to Leviathan and thought you were a dragon slayer, Leviathan would lay you out. Leviathan would take you down. And in the same way, when we come to God and we can be bold enough to say, okay, God, you need to tell me this, you need to tell me that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And God is saying, wait a second, are you not realizing who I am? I am God and you are man. So one of the cool things to realize is God is in control and we don't have anything to complain to God about, to try and correct God. But at the same time, the dragons in our life, the things that are huge, the things that in our lives we're thinking, there's no way I can overcome this. When we begin to submit to God, we are then submitting our lives to the ultimate dragon slayer, so to speak, the only person that could destroy the absolute undestroyable evil in this world is God. The book of Revelation begins to use the same word, tanamin, for the way that God is going to strike down Satan in the end times. So even in this book, it's beginning to foreshadow to. There was these creatures, these dragons that God was slayed in the Old Testament. And now in the same way, the same word is used for Satan in the Garden of Eden, that God took him out of the Garden of Eden. And in the same way, in the end times, God is going to slay Satan and all of the evil in this world for us. So today, let's remember that God is in complete control of our world. And when we submit to him, when we realize he's in control, we're now on the side of the ultimate power in this world. So I hope to see you tomorrow for Job 42. We're not going to talk about dragons if you're not into that. So tomorrow will be better. Job 42. We'll see you tomorrow.